My name's Sarah, and I help women reclaim the time and energy that bad body image has stolen from them. Today I'm interviewing a rock star graduate of one of my one-on-one coaching programs, Megan, who worked with me over a year ago now and is still maintaining the changes that we made together in her program. Before we started working together, Megan was struggling to feel confident in her body, to feel good about herself inside, and to have consistent mental and physical care routines. By the end of our work together, this is what she said: "I feel amazing and continue to feel that way every day. Even on the hard days, because those still exist, I'm still able to give myself more confidence, comfort, and compassion." Hell yeah, Megan. Let's dive into our interview. On the phone, I have my lovely program graduate, past client, Megan, who we were working together. We just looked at your one-on-one doc that we shared when we were working together. Our first session was April 27th of 2022. So it's been a year and almost 8 months since we started, which means it's been a year and about 4 months, almost a year and a half since we ended our work together. But you're somebody who I just loved working with because you reminded me a lot of myself in the sense that you are very on your shit. You're like, I know what I want. I'm ready to get stuff done. I'm ready to make changes. And it was like just such powerful work that we did together. And I enjoyed it so much. But I'm also super excited to talk to you, as I've already told you, because it's been this long since we worked together, and you and I have stayed in touch off and on since then. I've kept some life updates. You've asked me for life updates, which I always love to give. But yeah, you're somebody that's just been like continuing to kick ass and move through a lot of life changes since we worked together. So I'll save a lot of my questions for later, but I'm super excited to ask you all about this whole experience that you had in a way that's really reflective and allows you to have the benefit of thinking back to that time in your life and all of the amazing foundational changes that you made at that time that are still having an impact on your life today. So you are 23, you just told me, because in my head you're so much older, but we started working together in your last semester of college, right? Right before you were finishing school. And just tell me a little bit about what that time in your life was like. What were you up to? What was difficult? What did you feel like you needed help on or you wanted to change?
Okay, so I just feel definitely like that was like I just feel the last semester of college for anybody is like a horrifying time because you're like, oh my gosh, I just was in school for 20 years and I don't know what life is like not being in school. And that was like really hitting me. I just felt like really confused about I was doing an internship and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Do I want to do this? Do I want to try something else? I don't really know. And I was content, but I was a little bit lonely. I had swore off talking to people, and that meant not putting myself out in any way to meet other people, like romantically and even like friendship wise. Like I had my friends, but I was like, I'm not dealing with people. And it was a little like it was a little negative. I also definitely was just like I felt scattered, like overwhelmed a lot, like mentally, physically. I know we used to talk about this all the time, but I really wanted a more consistent physical movement routine and I just never gave it to myself. I would go on runs and then I would be obsessive over using the app that I would use to go on my runs and see how far I went. And it was, again, running by yourself is lonely. I was like in a space where I needed a bigger community around me and like more support, and I just didn't know where to find that, how to find that, and like I needed to make myself ready also to accept that. And I would also say there was just like a lot of like routine things that I like knew I wanted that I would journal about, and I just didn't know how to get there. I remember wanting to be able to go to the grocery store and feel confident in what I was buying and not panic staring at a wall of cereal and being like, I don't know which one to pick. And I wanted to make my lunch in the morning and make dinner at night and just be like happy with having that decision and like being comfortable with my decision. So I feel like I was just going through like being 22 and just stressed out all the time because I was like, what is going on? But that was it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I relate to that so much because when I was finishing school, I was always a very motivated, school-focused person. I was an overachiever. I was a perfectionist with my grades, and I wasn't necessarily on a career path that I felt super inspired by. I didn't have a dream job, so I felt like I was like full speed ahead towards an outcome that was very unclear. I'm
Yeah.
full speed ahead towards graduation, and then I have no idea how to be a quote unquote adult after that, which was like stressful because it's what the heck am I working towards? Everyone tells me I'm doing a good job, but I don't really know what's next. And yeah, everybody talks about entering the real world when you graduate, and it isn't this thing that's like exciting a lot of times. Like, it is in
No.
theory, but really it's okay, you want me to do all these things, like you mentioned, be a human that feeds themselves and moves their body and has these healthy habits, and I'm supposed to get a job that makes me enough money and I love, and it's just a lot of different things going on at once. And so these little things like you're describing, like grocery shopping, moving your body, finding consistent habits with those really important but small actions, they're super small actions, but then they feel so much bigger than they actually are because they represent this overwhelm that you're feeling in this period of life. And I work with so many people, not just leaving college, though I have a lot of women that are exiting like the school structure, but going through transition periods in life, like changing jobs or getting married or just entering a new relationship in general, where like a big part of your daily life is going to change. And we need support a lot of times to find consistency with that. You talked about being in your head about your runs, and I remember you like tracking them, and I remember we'll talk about it, but it was like a huge thing when you didn't track one of your runs, you just went for a run. And yeah, things like that, or like being in that grocery aisle and overthinking your food choices. What was the internal dialogue around those decisions? What was that probably like negative, it sounds like, self-talk that was running in your head at the time? What was that dialogue like in your brain?
It was absolutely negative self-talk. And this is something that every single time I meet with my therapist, we still talk about this. And he's like, be nice to yourself. And I'm like, I know. But before we had really started and when we were first starting together, it was like that. It was like if I didn't track my run, then the run didn't happen and you didn't exert this energy and it was like that kind of stuff. And
didn't count.
It didn't count, yes. And with the grocery store, if I didn't prepare, I didn't plan because I was like, I don't know what to do. And I didn't really know how to do the grocery store, right? Nobody teaches you how to do the grocery store. Like, my mom, like, walks in and is like this. And I'm like, how did you do that? But, like, so
Yeah.
I would go in and I would panic. Like, I would be like, okay, I have to get this for breakfast and this for lunch and then this for dinner. And it was a lot of like, the perfectionism of, okay, if I'm going to make this meal, then I need these 5 things. And then I was almost like buying too much stuff. And then every week I would realize that I don't eat that much because it was like, I would buy like 8 different meals when I only have 5 days of work of lunch and I don't need this much. I would, of course, get mad at myself because I would be like, this is bad now. These blueberries were just in the back of my fridge for 3 weeks. And
yeah, I wasted money.
Yes.
I wasted resource. Yeah, all that guilt. Yeah.
It was a lot of guilt, but it was just like stressful because I just would continue to get mad at myself and I would be like, I don't know, and would try to go on like Google and TikTok and be like, how do I do this stuff? And it wasn't very helpful, unfortunately, but it was a lot of just telling myself like, you need to do better and not giving myself the opportunity to do better or helping myself actually do better.
It sounds like you said it perfectly. This wasn't helpful. These thoughts in your brain were trying to help you. They were trying to help you eat healthy and exercise sufficiently, but they were misdirected. Like they were coming from a place that wasn't actually serving you. And you knew that you needed a little bit more of a self-loving approach to that inner dialogue because it's so funny, isn't it? We have these thoughts that are like, you need to do better. You need to eat better. You need to be better at planning your grocery shops. You need to be better at exercising, whatever that looks like. And those thoughts make us want to do it less. And it's counterintuitive. Like it sabotages you in a way. Yeah. And yeah, it sounds like your negative self-talk was like this self-fulfilling prophecy of you're not doing good enough. And it makes you end up doing worse than what you want to doing. And then you get in that structure of journaling about what you want to change. But the journaling just becomes this list of all the things that you're not doing good enough at, not like a list that really builds you up.
Big list, girl,
Yeah.
on my journal, and like the brain
Yes.
dump, and like I would go crazy for an hour in my journal, and then I would put it away, and then nothing would happen.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
relate to that so much. And like you said, like you still talk to your therapist about negative self-talk is something that takes years to unlearn.
Yeah.
I still have these conversations with myself every single day. I hope, and we'll talk about that, about all the changes you made in our work together and have continued to make, but I hope that it's easier than it used to be because we talked a lot about talking back to that dialogue in our work together. But it sounds like when we started working together, you were in a space where you knew what you wanted to change, you knew
Hmm.
this negative self-talk wasn't helping you, but you
Hmm.
couldn't break out of that cycle on your own. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? Is that relatable?
Totally. And it was just like a transitional period. And I was like, I need something right now that is going to help me and get me to where I know I can be and where I also deserve to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you had tried to do it on your own a lot of times. So it
Hmm.
feels like to me, you got to a point where you recognized that you needed an outside person.
Yes.
So without just flattering me, I would love to hear from your perspective, because I didn't know you yet. Like, why was I the person that you reached out to?
You were the person I reached out to because there was a TikTok of you on my For You page. And this is exactly the truth. It was a TikTok of you. I forgot exactly what you said, but it was one of your like crazy viral ones where you were standing side profile and you were like, "This is
I
what
know
my body
exactly which
looks
one you're talking
like."
about.
And I was like, "Oh my God, this is me." And I was like, "This is
Yeah.
what my body looks like." And I was like, "This is so validating." I was like, "Love this
Yeah.
girl." And then I went on like a rabbit hole of like your TikTok, like your Instagram, and I was like, "Oh my God, she just gets it." And I immediately was like, "She is like full." And I was like, what if I do this crazy thing and do something for myself? I do so
Mm-hmm.
much for other people all the
Mm-hmm.
time. And I was like debating for a few days, like talking it through with myself, like with somebody in my family. And I was like, is this crazy? And they were like, no, you're allowed to do stuff. It's your money, first of all, and you're allowed to make a decision. And it was like scary because
Mm-hmm.
I was like decision fatigue, fear, and just like being like, what if this doesn't work? But like taking the risk and like taking the leap and realizing that I was in a place where I needed to be emotionally prepared to get into some really tough conversations about myself and put trust into a total stranger, technically. Like, I was like, who is this?
Yeah, some girl from the internet.
Some random person on TikTok. So that was exactly what it was. And I felt really guilty at first because I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I can't do this for myself. I don't like it just didn't feel like something that like I would do because like
Mm-hmm.
I can do stuff for other people all the time, but actually being selfish and taking time for myself to invest in myself felt like such a selfish, guilty thing. And now I'm beyond happy with it. And it really changed my mindset of putting myself first. I know this is so stupid and overplayed, but like when you're on a plane, you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Like you don't put it on other
Uh-huh.
people. Like you need to make yourself okay before anyone else
Yeah.
okay. So that was my oxygen mask first moment.
That makes me want to cry. That's because I'm someone that facilitates this work all the time. And the first thing that came to mind when you said it feels so selfish to spend money on myself, because really that's
Mhm.
the biggest physical manifestation of taking the leap into this work is making that first payment or putting your deposit down. Or I don't remember if you paid in full if you're on a plan, but a lot of people pay in full. So they're like, oh my God, this big chunk of change I'm
Yeah.
depositing into myself. And it's so interesting because the number one reason that I get on discovery calls with people and they're like, I know I need this, I know this is what I need to change, and then they don't end up working with me is the money. And it
Yeah.
is sometimes truly, I've done this enough times that I can really tell where someone's coming from, whether they realize it or not. It's a lot of times, like genuinely, this is not the right financial decision for me right now. But I would say 80% of the time, it's the fear and then permission that we deny ourselves to invest money in yourself, especially when you don't know if it's going to work the way that you want it to work. And so
Right.
I'm so curious from your perspective, because I have all my own theories and I'm the facilitator, but as someone who was the client, like, why do you think it's so hard for people to give ourselves the permission to say, I deserve to spend money on myself. I deserve to spend this money that I worked for, that I've saved, that is supposed to be for important things. Like, I can be the important thing. Why do you think people struggle with that so much? Why do you think it was so hard for you?
I guess it was just because I like am just such a people pleaser, and I'm the kind of person that like wherever I go, I can be at the grocery store, I can be at Five Below, but if I see something that reminds me of my mom or my brother or my boyfriend or my best friend, I will just be like, "Oh my God, I need to get this," and give it to them. I'm just a gift
Mm-hmm.
person, right? And I have no problem spending money on a gift for somebody, to nothing like that. I will buy somebody a concert ticket if I want them to come with me. No
Mm-hmm.
problem. But when it comes to myself, it was just so difficult. I think there was an
Mm-hmm.
aspect of maybe feeling like I wasn't deserving of doing something that much, right? That negative self-talk was like, don't waste your money on yourself. It's harder when you're not seeing it tangible and giving it to somebody else and you're
Yeah.
giving it to yourself. It's a very different thing to see. It was just that, I guess that was just why it was so hard, because it just felt like I'm
Yeah.
giving this to somebody else, I'm using it, and that like that selfish feeling. But in the
Mm-hmm.
end, that was the best decision I could have done.
Yeah, I want to dive into all of the ways that this changed your life, like you mentioned, but along the same wavelength, we think that it's selfish for
Mm-hmm.
us to invest in ourselves. But from my perspective, as the facilitator of this, I get on discovery calls with people and I hear them talk about, I don't feel confident with my partner. I don't stand up for myself at work. I struggle to have a relationship with my mother because her body image really affects mine. And I
Mm-hmm.
see all these ways that doing this work benefits not just you, but the people in your life, the people
Mm-hmm.
that you love. And again, you got to put your oxygen mask on first. If you
Yeah.
don't take care of yourself, you not taking care of yourself, you not loving yourself, you not thinking that you're valuable or important or worthy, it does impact other people. So I'm so curious with the work that we did, strengthening your health habits. Yeah. Like how you took care of yourself, but also why you take care of yourself, like your self-worth. How did that positively benefit other people in your life?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I feel like the first answer that came to mind is that this has strengthened my relationship with my partner. And we are so comfortable about communicating the hard things. And really early on in our relationship, which was when we started working together,
Yes,
I
you were literally going on your first date
first.
when we were working together. I was like, I had my popcorn out. I was like, it was the best. It was the best watching you build this relationship that you've now had since we were working together a year and a half ago. But yes, sorry,
It's
continue.
okay. It's been amazing. But we started talking and I really sat him down and I was like, listen, here's what I like need from somebody. And if you can't give me that, totally fine. But I felt a lot more confident giving somebody, like telling somebody, this is what I am looking for, this is what I need. And you can tell me what you need. And if I can't give you, that's fine. But I made that a priority. And because of that, I think that our relationship just came from a place, like it, and it's just now it's become a steady relationship where we're very comfortable telling each other our needs. And I became really confident in being the person that like what he needs, I gave that to him. And then in just other relationships, family, friends, I'm a lot more confident in our relationship. Sometimes, you know, those friends who you talk to once a month, but you're like, we're still bad. We just don't need to talk, right? But we
Mhm.
hang out and we're fine. I felt a lot more confident in those relationships. I didn't think that people were like ghosting me or didn't like me. I didn't jump to conclusions. I was like, okay, I'm fine. If you have an issue, that's fine, but let's talk about it. I also just became like more of myself for people, and like I was a lot more honest about things, and if they wanted to talk about stuff, like I just felt more comfortable giving them advice or just being myself. Like I felt so much more who I've always wanted to become and like how I've wanted to present myself to my friends and my family, and it really just made me like a better version of myself. That's just, and in turn, like if I gave them all of me, then like they can give me all of themselves, and that's really
Mhm.
how it felt.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like literally all types of relationships, like relationship, friendship, family, got stronger because you
Yes.
were able to show up more authentically as yourself, to
Mm-hmm.
know who that person is and what they deserve. And you built with your romantic relationship for sure, but with existing relationships too, like you built or strengthened a foundation, and that has continued to last because you still have this extremely beautiful partnership now and you have these relationships in your life. And I'm sure you graduated college while we were working together. You've probably met new friends since then, and you've probably observed how you show up in those relationships has been different than in the past. I know I was the same. I look at how I start and build friendships now, and now that I'm in a place where I'm so much more secure, so much more aware of like how I want to show up and how I want to be treated, it allows me to be so much more myself and therefore hold so much more space for that person, and we just build on each other, and it's so much more fulfilling. That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. Every time we catch up, I'm always like, how's the boy? Because I just want to know, because I was literally on the front lines with you, like going into this, I'm going to hang out with him for the second time. And I think I'm just going to be like really forward in a very loving way, but like a very forward of these are my expectations. Like I want to date somebody and this is what I want it to look like. And he was so amazing. Like it makes me so happy because I got to be a part of that and I got to help you build that foundation. Like I remember us getting off our call and you being like, okay, I'm ready to go see him tonight. And because we had that call together, you were so amped, like you were so confident, and it was amazing. So yeah, it's so powerful. And I love checking in on that. Like every time I talk to you, I'm like, how are you? How's life? How's the boy? Tell me. But yeah. Okay. So enough about other people. I want to talk about you. We were working together for multiple months, I think like 4-ish, actively meeting every other week on our calls. We were working one-on-one. A lot of people work with me in group programs too. But in our time together, you made a lot of changes in your life, both with like physical habits as far as like nutrition, exercise, routines, mental health care, things like that. But you also made a lot of like mindset shifts.
Yeah.
What I want to think about is, because we've talked about it a lot since, and you messaged me once, you were like, I still do this one thing, this one little thing every morning when I wake up that we talked about. And thank you for that. I want to talk about how the changes that we made and the mindset shifts we made have continued to show up in your life since. So tell me a little bit about your like major takeaways and what you feel still impacts you today.
Okay. So the one thing that I messaged you about, and I just giggled because I remembered it, but I still do it. I did it this morning. Every morning I stretch. And I stretch in my bed, and I shut my alarm off, and that is every single morning. And that's just like my little couple minutes moment of just like being in touch with my body, like making sure if I slept on a part of my body weird or whatever. But I love that you mentioned that because it's true. I still do it every morning. I think that I took away just a lot of self-worthiness, I guess if that's a word. But how we were talking about with my friends and family and stuff, I really do feel deserving of good things now. And that's a horrifically hard thing to say.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. But that was just a mindset shift that I really wanted to get to, and I still work on that every single day. But I feel deserving of getting a job. I don't doubt myself. Oh, I shouldn't have gotten this job or whatever. No, I performed well and I got the job, and I deserve it because I was the best candidate for it. And that carries to all parts of my life of just feeling more confident in my abilities, being a person, being a worker, an employee, being a spinner, being everything. There's so many things I just feel confident in my abilities.
I would love to hear more about spin, because you mentioned in the beginning that you wanted a more consistent movement habit when we started working together, and then you just had a really big milestone with spin, but I want you to explain it because I will get it wrong. But tell me about that.
Yes, this is perfect. When we first started working together, I used to be like run every single day, and I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't, I was just not, the fulfilling feeling of it was waning. And I had always thought about other kinds of movement and the idea of a community centered around movement. And lo and behold, I find that there is a spin studio 5 minutes from my house. And it's not like Soul Cycle or anything, it's like an independent studio. And I spent probably a good month debating if I was gonna go. I'm like, I've never
I
done
remember
this. Like,
talking to you about this. You
ugh,
were nervous.
so
Yeah.
nervous.
What do you
On their
think you were
in
nervous about?
I think I was nervous in a social aspect because I'm like by myself in a room of people that I don't know
Hmm.
performing exercise. It's not just standing.
Everyone's gonna look at me. I'm gonna do something weird or embarrassing, like all of those thought spirals that make you, again, stop you from getting in the room in the first place. Yes, I
Yes.
do relate.
And then I was also just scared of my physical ability. I was like, oh my God, what if I'm horrible at this? What if I hate it? And so I was nervous for a bit. I finally decided to take the leap. I go to an evening class. And I'm going to be honest, like my first ride wasn't great, right? Like I was
Hmm.
in pain. My body hurt in places that I never thought it would hurt. I was like, ow, okay. And I like probably felt like halfway through I was gonna pass out. Like my blood sugar was like rapidly dropping. It was just horrible. But the conscious decision to go back the next week. And I have gone back since then, and now I hit the milestone I hit was my 250th ride, which is crazy.
I thought it
Yeah.
was like 100 or 150. Oh my gosh.
I know.
That's
Amazing.
amazing. Oh
Amazing.
my gosh.
Yeah, it's been amazing. The one thing that I was looking for also was a community. And oh my goodness, I could talk about the people that come to the spin studio all day. I have met some amazing best friends that I talk to every single day. We don't just talk about spin anymore. We talk about our lives and we hang out and we get food and we go out after classes. And it's just like, I have never felt so surrounded by amazing people before. It's just, we're all like excited to be better people. And like last night I went to a class and it's called Bad Bitch Monday because it's just Mondays suck. We just need
Yeah.
that energy. And the instructor she's just an amazing person, and she always takes this last climb to just like talk, and she makes all the lights go dark, and she just has like really inspirational music. And there are so many times that I like literally cry because of just how
Hmm.
what she's talking about and how much I internalize all of what she's saying. And it's just such a beautiful, like, how could you imagine? I could not have imagined myself where I am now a year or 2 years ago, whatever, when we first started talking. And this is just the level of fulfillment I needed in movement. And I needed that. Other people, they can run, they can be fine, whatever. But I knew that I needed this community aspect. Like, it's not just my body, but it's my brain. And I really needed to feed both in at the same time. So this was just like the best thing literally I ever did for myself.
I literally just got chills as you said. Like, I couldn't have put it into words better myself. I'm like tearing up. My gosh. This is why our work together was so freaking powerful because you're
It
such
really
a
was.
badass.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, it's amazing. It's so amazing, all of the changes that you've made. I have a million more questions that I want to ask you and that I could sit here and ask you all night, but I will give us one more, which I think is
Okay.
just really puts it into a nice little bow on this conversation. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about the fear you had at the beginning before you booked that first discovery call, before you made that first payment and we started our first session, and it was a bunch of unknown, but you knew you needed to change. We talked about the fear of investing money in yourself. We talked about the fear of failure, of it not working. We talked about struggling to see yourself as worthy of feeling as good as you do now, probably not even understanding if it was possible for you to feel this way. If you could say one thing to that version of yourself that was looking at my TikTok, looking at my Calendly page to book that first call, that had no idea where you'd be now or knew what was coming, what would you say?
Oh my God. I would tell her that she needs to be able to trust herself. And I know that she felt very indecisive and was so scared to make just a decision because she wanted it to be the right decision. But there is no right or wrong decision. It's just a decision that takes you to somewhere else. And nothing is going to be that catastrophic that everything's going to burn to flames. Like everything is fine. And it wasn't that serious. And I want her to trust herself and be confident in her choices and not have to listen to everybody else, and realize that in a year and a half she would feel so much more comfortable and confident making a decision in every aspect of her life, in her personal life, in her work life, in her exercise life, whatever. She will be there. And I think that 22-year-old me ending college would literally be jaw-dropping if she saw what I looked like right now. And just know that your room will still be messy, and it'll always be messy, but other things are still good in life. You got over most of it, but it's still hard to put laundry away, but it's fine.
God, that is so beautiful. And I honestly couldn't say it better myself, like as somebody that's gotten to know you and gotten to see everything that you've accomplished. And
Mm-hmm.
again, these foundations you've laid for what you'll continue to accomplish. I will cut us off there because again, I could sit here and talk to you all night and we will
Mm-hmm.
keep chatting. I love staying in touch with you, but you are one of the clients makes me love this work because you
Mm-hmm.
are the perfect example of what is possible when you push past the fear and you allow yourself to go for it. And you've created amazing things in yourself and in your life. And I hope you're as proud of yourself as I am of you.
I definitely am. I'm proud to say that I am proud of myself because that's a hard thing for people to say.